Hello and welcome back to Season 4 of Google Plus Business Spotlight. My name is Stepan Hovnanian, your host, as always joined with Ben Fisher from Steady Demand, who is hidden in the film strip, but he'll be here in a second. And want to just thank everybody for all of your support the last couple of months. We've been retooling the show and really just putting together some fantastic content for you guys. And we're going to start off with that with our first guest. And we're just going to dive right in. So as you guys join here on the event page, start asking questions, and if you have anything else you want to share with us, go for that. And but otherwise, well, first off, we'll bring Ben in. How are you today, buddy? Welcome.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody. How's everybody doing? Morning.
I wish we could all answer you. We're doing great, but you have an awesome new hookup here, right? You got.
Yeah, I've got a
cool
nice green screen background, got a little spinning globe, and just trying to bring the presentation up just a little bit.
Nice. Good stuff. And now we're going to welcome our guest, Adam Tratt from Haiku Deck. Welcome, Adam. And, just, again, dig right in. Just tell us a little bit about Haiku Deck, and we'll start getting into the whole Google Plus strategy and things like that.
All right, great. Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Haiku Deck is a startup based in Seattle, Washington, and our mission is we want to make people 10 times more effective at creating visual stories and presentations that are memorable and beautiful. So a couple years ago, we set out to create first an iPad app that would bring to a product the best practices of all the presentation greats. And so we delivered that on iPad a couple years ago. And we immediately saw that we had hit a nerve, and then about a year later, we started working on our web-based version of the app. So anyone with an internet connection and a web browser can create Haiku Decks now as well. And in our 2 years in the market, we've earned about 4 million users, having spent about $0, in fact, exactly $0 on paid marketing. We've done it all through social, word of mouth, and influencer marketing, and I'm looking forward to telling you more about our story as we go.
That is awesome.
That's fantastic. Ben, you were going to go ahead. I'll
yeah, I was going to say, 3 million users by just doing social marketing.
Four.
Oh, I'm sorry, 4 million users.
I worked hard for that last million.
Hey, we're looking forward to the next 10, right?
That's right.
So, but that brings up a really great point, because that's influencer marketing is really how you got onto our radar in the first place. And really quickly, I'm just going to bring up a quick presentation that I actually ended up creating and was shared by Haiku Deck. I first ran into you when actually Mark Tratt had shared something, and he's like, hey, I was featured in this Haiku Deck. And I know you've got a great story about Mark to tell everybody here in a minute. But I was literally laying in my bed one night, and I just, on my iPad, just going ahead and created this really quick Haiku Deck. And, it was just, we were about to launch a service which was producing Hangouts on Air for businesses. And I was like, well, okay, so let's go ahead and detail out all of the things that go into creating a Hangout on Air. I created this, actually it took longer to think about the bullet points than it did to create the actual deck itself.
That's the way it should be.
Exactly. It took, I think maybe I put 10 minutes into it, something like that, about 10, 15 minutes total. And but I found it really easy to do, and that was the beautiful part about it. It was easy, done, boom, publish, share to D+, good night.
Yep.
And but you have an entire strategy really based upon influencer marketing. And yeah, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit details about that?
Yeah, well, first of all, it starts with creating the kind of product experience that you just described. Our story, we have an interesting backstory, because when we started out as a company, we were working on celebrity-based Facebook games in the age of Farmville, and so we thought this was a good idea, and we actually ended up striking a partnership with a local rap star by the name of Sir Mix-a-Lot. And we built him a Facebook game, and we launched it, and it was a very successful launch, but then it totally failed. And there was this moment where my co-founder, Kevin, and I were sitting working on a PowerPoint presentation to share with our investors that we hoped would shore up their confidence in us and show them what we had learned. And we got into this argument about who was going to have to work on the deck. And it was in that argument that we began to realize, that the technology, first of all, storytelling should be the best part of entrepreneurism. We should love the act of sitting down and crafting those bullets and coming up with a story to tell people. I mean, that is really, at its core, the best part of being a small business person, in my opinion. And we realized together in that same moment, isn't it a shame that the tools that we have for telling those stories are so dreadful that we were arguing over who had to actually make the deck? And when we started to unpack that spark, what we realized is that the traditional tools for telling stories were really antiquated, right? I mean, if you think about it, PowerPoint itself predates the Palm Pilot by 7 years. The product is 25 years old. It came into being, and it really, I started my career at Microsoft as a product manager. Never, when I was there, I was an expert in PowerPoint, and really the product hasn't fundamentally changed in the 20 years since. And so since then, a lot of other things around it have changed. The internet came along, social came along, the importance of being visual has gone up significantly. And so we thought, what if we create a tool that allows people to build content in this new world that we're living in, where visual content is so important? And what if we do it in a way that the message is the medium, right? So that with every deck that gets created, we can build additional community around the experience of storytelling, and that's really fundamentally what we tried to do. And the way we, the way we deliver on that experience that you had that night, 10 minutes before bedtime, is we looked at the experts, and what the experts say is there's 4 things that make up a great presentation. And they are: focus on one idea at a time, so limit the number of words on the screen. 2, use a really powerful image. So at the core of Haiku Deck is this very powerful image search engine that finds, combs through 40 million Creative Commons licensed photos and finds you the most relevant ones that are the right size, the right resolution, that are available for your use without you having to violate someone else's copyright. Then the third thing is consistency in formatting, and the fourth thing is simple charts and graphs. So we put those 4 things into a product. We threw it up against the wall in the iTunes store, and sure enough, it started to, we hit a nerve with presentation geeks. So you asked about the influencer strategy. The next thing we did is we started looking for, who are the people that really care about visual storytelling, and who's doing a good job with this, and we started to find blog posts and books and other content that those influencers had created, and we slowly would one by one create haiku decks inspired by those influencers. So our biggest success story is actually with Seth Godin. We found one of his blog posts. We created a beautiful haiku deck about it. We sent it to Seth as a gift. Just, hey, look, we were inspired by your post. We created this. Would love for you to embed it in your blog, and he did. And within 6 months, it had over 200,000 views on that one deck. And each one of those views was, a brand exposure for us. And so, we've looked at different verticals, different channels. When it comes to Google+, Mark is, a fantastic influencer. He's been a fan of Haiku Deck for a while and has helped us. Not only has he helped us by using the product, but he's provided excellent feedback to help us make the product better. And part of that influencer strategy is not only identifying those people and working with their content, but it's also creating a funnel so that when they self-identify, we can pull them into the fold. and work with them. So we spend a lot of time combing through decks. When you create a haiku deck, you have the option of making it public, restricted, or private. There's privacy settings. We look at most of the public decks, and we're seeking out high-quality content. And when we find it, we feature it in our gallery. And that's sort of like page 1 out of the Influencer Handbook is, work with your community to help them achieve their goals. And so in your case, you're building your reputation and expertise around a field. We saw that you had published excellent content, and so we asked if it would be okay for us to feature in our gallery, and I'm guessing you were delighted when we did.
Absolutely. And actually Zara Altier went ahead and gave us the link for the deck that Mark was talking about, and it's called Painting Poetic Presentations. And yeah, I remember looking at this one. This one is really a beautiful one, actually. What I really, one of the things that I loved about what you just said, I mean, there's tons about what you just said that's awesome, but that struck a chord with me, is it's kind of like you're democratizing slide decks, in a sense. Just like we had Canva, actually, on our show in our last season. And they're democratizing the creation of images. But what I really love is what you said about Creative Commons. The fact that you can use Haiku Deck and not be afraid of the fact that the images that you're using are going to get you in legal trouble because they're all sourced by Creative Commons. So you're kind of it's like you said, you're hitting those pain points, and you've gotten rid of those pain points, and now have made it really easy for people to be creative.
That's right.
The message.
That's right, and our guiding light is this vision that we want to make it 10 times faster and easier for people to create decks that are 10 times more effective. And one way we've done that is by building a tool that has this Creative Commons image search and that removes a lot of the friction behind the actual creative process. Some other ways that we're doing it, as you mentioned, are democratizing content. So if you think about it, traditionally presentation tools lived in a silo. Right? You would create a PowerPoint deck and it would live as a file on your hard drive. And if you wanted to share it, you would have to go through the very cumbersome process of emailing it around. And I often like to point out that Dropbox and Box.net have their billion-dollar valuations. They have PowerPoint to thank for their billion-dollar valuations, because I'm willing to bet that the number in one of the top 5 reasons people use Dropbox is because it's a real pain in the neck to email an 85 megabyte PowerPoint file, right?
Right.
And so what we wanted to do is remove the friction around sharing and build this community, this content repository, so that ultimately we can, we can give our users the option to share their works publicly with other members of the community. And that's another way that we can remove friction from the authoring process.
This is awesome, and removing friction is obviously a really important part, I think, to get anybody to adopt and start using your tools, using your products, and champion you. Because one of the things I'm sure that they're all saying is, this is so easy to use, it's fantastic, right? So you're delivering a phenomenal customer experience just by kind of using common sense. I mean, it sounds like, right? You're hitting pain points and you're taking them away. Real quick, I want to jump over real quick because we love our audience, and just like you guys love your community. So we want to give a couple of shout-outs to some of the people who continue to support the show and also have been tweeting with the hashtag #GPLUSSPOTLIGHT. Adam, you're one of them. Also got Jen Marshall, Carrie Ann Foster, Denise Wakeman, Eileen Smith, who's I think just checked in a couple minutes ago on the event page. Great to have you, Eileen. We have a couple with Agency Central and Ray Hiltz. Appreciate you guys all. And Zara, myself, obviously, all you guys who tweeted about the show with the hashtag #GPLUSSPOTLIGHT, we appreciate it. We know it's been a couple of months since you've had to do this, so it's great to see everybody jumping in on that, just like you guys were supporting us for so long before. So yeah, let's, if we can, let's kind of transition a little over to the Google Plus side of things, and we could start with talking about Mark Trapp, who who's obviously a very established user here, I guess, and part of the community, very well respected. So can you talk a little bit about how maybe G Plus is different from some of your other profiles on social or your other strategies?
Yeah, I mean, as you guys know, the landscape is so fluid. When we started out with our work, I would say G Plus was not a central component of the strategy. But over time, over the 2 years that we've been in the market, I mean, everyone watching this is sort of seen what has happened with the value of Facebook regarding engagement and just the way they've started to. It used to be sort of a green pasture for free social engagement, and now they've been slowly turning the screws on brands to get brands to pay for visibility on their platform. So as that has happened, we also we began to appreciate a bunch of things about Google Plus. I mean, clearly the audience that's there is way more engaged. It's more professional. People are there for professional reasons. It's a big audience, more than 500 million people, right? And then from a as I mentioned, so much of what we're about as a brand is visual content. We want to help people not only create a deck, but create a deck that's beautiful. And Google Plus is so fantastic for presenting visual content. And the content that our users create and post to Google Plus is disproportionately engaging. I think so. So as we think about our own brand strategy, we see a lot of quality in the Google Plus community. We're still, I don't think we have it nailed yet, and I think experts who are watching this probably could give us a lot of suggestions on how we could do a better job. But for us, it's one about engagement, the community engagement. It's about obviously there's some value to us in search indexing. We're just starting to play around with Hangouts so that we can better connect with our audience. We also have really interesting, our user base is sort of segmented in interesting ways. So, we have users who are ed tech sort of educators and administrators who are using Haiku Deck in the classroom, and their needs and interests and things they want to see and discuss are very different than the realtors who are using our app, or the salespeople who are using our app, or the lawyers who are using our app. And so there's a lot of power in circles for us as well. We can start to round up interest groups and do a more effective job of communicating. And then there's the influencers too, right? Like you can round up the influencers, people like Mark, and carry on a special dialogue with people who are moving the needle.
One feature I would love to see from Haiku Deck?
What's that?
And I don't know if you guys can do this or not, but using the interactive post feature of Google Plus, where you could kind of like you could do with SoundCloud, you can embed the SoundCloud directly into a Google Plus post. I would love to be able to see a Haiku Deck embedded in a Google Plus post, so I could play it right from there.
So would we. I mean, that's really a function of Google itself, right? We basically, all of these platforms have what they call a whitelist, and if you're blessed by the powers that be, then you get on that whitelist, and it's a lot easier for companies that have a little more visibility in Silicon Valley to get on those whitelists, but we're constantly trying to. So yes, if there's anyone on the Google Plus team out there in internet land that's watching this.
So there's your call to action, folks. Get Google Plus to allow Haiku Deck to do interactive posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really, really fantastic, actually. Because I'm right now I'm looking at the Haiku Deck page, and just to piggyback on what Adam was talking about, it's really, really cool to see the things that you're posting. First off, I mean, it goes without saying the visuals are gorgeous, but from a page management standpoint, if you will, you have you're sharing other people's stuff. I see even a share of a SlideShare post, which is very cool. And you're right, you're into all different kinds of verticals, and I think it's first off, visually beautiful again, but you're covering all the bases. So I think even from a strategy standpoint, somebody coming onto the Haiku Deck page sees very much like your gallery, I imagine, how broad and deep the the use case is for your product, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it surprises us every day the ways people are using the app, from proposing to their future spouse to teaching lessons. We have a lot of folks that are in the agency world who are using, I mean, if you think about it, so much of social media are slideshows, right? But nobody would dream of using PowerPoint to create a slideshow for social media consumption. We've designed the app to be mobile first, and as a result, the content plays beautifully on any size screen. And lots of, it's just the perfect thing for creating social media candy, right? If you think about the types of things that people love to interact with on Google Plus, on Facebook, on Tumblr, on Twitter, you name it, it's this kind of content, slideshow content. They just want to click, 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 click. I've consumed something. It was educational. It was inspiring. It was fun. And now I'm on to the next thing. And so, we like to think of the way we're sort of broadening the category of presentations. It used to be, when PowerPoint was invented, presentations were something that you projected on a wall in a conference room. And now people are spending hours a day on social channels like Google+, and they're just such fantastic ways to syndicate content for building your brand, for building your movement.
The syndication part's a really important part, and I think kind of goes back to what you said with for your own company strategy for pulling other people's content together and then giving it back to them.
Right.
I mean, it helps get your name out there. It's a phenomenal way to, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here on G Plus that do curation type posts where they'll say, like, here's a roundup of the different things going on, and it takes their brand along with them, along with well, I guess it does two things, right? It brings everybody who was part of that process into your post, into your audience, and then it takes you out to theirs as they distribute it for you and say, hey, look, somebody was kind enough to mention me and include me selflessly in an expose or spotlight showcase piece.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great stuff. Hey, we actually have a couple of questions that I want to pull up if I can. These are going to be the tough ones here, Adam. So
I'm ready.
If you need your politically correct answer, it's cool. We get it.
I don't have a politically correct bone in my body.
Any plans to make Haiku Deck available for Android?
Yeah, we have plans to do that. I mean, we're a tiny company, so we're always trying to make the appropriate investment in different platforms, and in the future we launched on iOS and we tried to build an awesome product experience just for iPad. And when we saw that the experiment had worked, we immediately started looking to the next platform. So we did it in what we in the software business call the lean, using lean methodology. We surveyed our users and we said, when you went to our website, we had a button that asked people what platform they wanted, and far and away the number one platform beyond iOS was desktop. And so we had a choice then to begin work on a Mac client or a Windows client, and instead we built a web-based version of the app so that anyone anywhere with a web browser can create a Haiku Deck. And if you have an iPad and a laptop, they sync. It's sort of a cloud-based experience. So the work you do on the web will show up on your iPad and vice versa. So we've been hard at work at that. One of the challenges in software is as the matrix of different platforms expands, so does the complexity, and it can really slow a team down. So we're trying to pick our investments extremely carefully. We haven't gotten to Android yet. It's next on the list. But we're really right now just committed to nailing desktop and iOS. So I don't have a date or anything like that to announce, but folks who don't have an iPad can certainly log in with a laptop or desktop computer and use our web-based product.
Yeah, and actually, that's a really great point. I mean, from a development standpoint, you're right. I mean, as you reach across multiple platforms, now you have to have more people who are really focused on each individual platform because, unfortunately, you can't just code for all.
Right.
And actually, we have Coach G Moore with a question here, and that is maybe you missed it, but what's the cost?
Well, I've got great news for you, Coach G Moore. It's free. Haiku Deck is completely free right now. I mean, ultimately, we're moving towards what's called a freemium model. So, if your watchers are familiar with Evernote, that's a great example of a freemium product where most of the functionality is free. We'll figure out some functionality to put behind a paywall, and ultimately, we expect to charge around $5 a month for those premium features. But the core features will remain free.
Oh my God, $5 a month?
Can you handle it?
For Creative Commons images? And easy? No,
it's a lot more than that. It's so much more.
That's awesome.
It's for the peace of mind knowing that you can start your presentation 10 minutes before bed and actually get to go to sleep that night.
Rock on, man. No, that's awesome, dude. That really is. Very cool.
Thank
you.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Stefan.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say we've got some other comments that are out there that are pretty cool. Marilyn Moore is going ahead and saying the message is a medium. Adam Tratt, yes. Also, mobile first, very forward thinking. And yeah, our audience is just eating it up. And can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, let's just segue a little bit further back into your G+ strategy because we kind of like what we were talking about in the green room. You have somebody who works basically on all of your social media platforms, and you are taking advantage of almost every social media platform that's out there. You have a community. You have a Google Plus page. Can you tell us a little bit just about that?
About how we do it?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy is that a central component of our long-term strategy, making it 10 times faster and easier for people to create decks that are 10 times more beautiful and more effective, central component of that is the community itself, right? We want to really get people engaged with what we're doing in a way that the traditional tools have not. And if you think about it, there's very few people flying the banner of PowerPoint, right? There are lots of people. There's actually a political party in Switzerland called the Death to PowerPoint Party. Believe it. So we see a real opportunity in stoking the fire of love for what we're doing, and it's working. So tactically, we have a role here at the company called customer evangelist, and so that member of our team, a young woman named Lisa Ma, who's awesome, is responsible for managing all of our content, editorial content that goes out through social, but more importantly, she's our eyes and ears. For me, I see social as 20% publishing and 80% listening. And the way you stoke the fires of love amongst a community is you care for them, right? You listen to when things don't go right, and you work really hard to address their needs. And so that's the real value in Google Plus and in really any social channel. I mean, I spend probably the first hour of every day in the office responding to customer emails. Every customer that registers for Haiku Deck gets an email, personal email from me, and I get a couple dozen responses a day from people who are either giving us praise or giving us complaints or telling us we're idiots. And I do my best to respond to certainly I respond to all of the thoughtful emails.
And actually, Adam, that's how you ended up on the show.
Oh, great.
Because you emailed me and you said, thank you for creating a Haiku Deck. And I was like, you know what, it'd be awesome to have Adam on the show.
I'm glad it worked out that way. Yeah, it really opens up a lot of doors. I think it's amazing how nameless and faceless most companies are. When you're a startup competing against a behemoth like PowerPoint, you really have to go the extra mile to break through. And we don't have big ad budgets, but what we do have is a real passion for helping our customers, and so that's how we show it.
It's fantastic, and so you're doing that through community. You're doing that through. I love the comment that you made. I love the phrase "stoking the fires of love." That's an awesome phrase, and especially customer evangelist as well for for a title or somebody at the company. I think that's awesome because we use brand advocates and things like that, but those are the actual people, right? This is somebody on the inside who's got their eye out for them, and my God, what a really cool idea, and quite honestly could be a really fun job too. So we've kind of got to the end of our discussion here, and I want to thank you, Adam, for coming. This has been a phenomenal, obviously, discussion about Haiku Deck, but I think also about stoking the fires of love, the idea of working for a greater purpose and trying to help the community as a whole. Just showcase the thing that you do really well as a product, but using other people to help you do that. I think there was a lot to learn here, and I guess last question for you is what would you have as a call to action for us, apart from obviously follow you guys on Google Plus and check out the community. And I put the link to it in the event page as well.
Thanks. I mean, I guess the number one thing, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure talking with you guys and answering your questions and engaging with your community. As I mentioned, Haiku Deck is a free app. The number one thing that we're trying to do right now is grow our community. So to the extent that your listeners and viewers will go to www.haikudeck.com or go to the iTunes App Store and download our iPad app. And not only do that, but create a deck and share that deck with their social circles. That will help us a tremendous amount. And to the extent that that your audience has ideas, suggestions, complaints for us, you can reach us through our website. My email is adam@haikudeck.com, and I look forward to hearing from everyone out there.
Awesome. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Adam, and obviously everybody who came and watched today and joined us for our kickoff of season 4. We switched to bi-weekly for those of you who aren't on our email list at GPLUSSPOTLIGHT.com. You don't know that, but for those of you who are on our email list, we polled you earlier late in the summer, and we found out that bi-weekly was a great idea. So we're not going to be around next week, but we are coming back on the 22nd, and the show's going to the dogs. We are going to have Bandit, who is Christine DeGraff's dog. She's a member of our team at Steady Demand, and she's created a page for him. And I think the unique thing about having him on the show is that she's developed a brand voice. So if you think about it that way, we're going to be talking a lot about brand voice at our next episode of Google Plus Business Spotlight, and we're going to be doing it with a truly unique brand, a dog. So come join, come hang out with us, and obviously head over to gplusspotlight.com to get all the goodies about upcoming guests, show notes, and things like that. Subscribe to YouTube and help us support the show however you can. So I guess for Ben, Adam, myself, thanks again for joining, and we will see you next time.
Everybody have a great week.